The room fell silent as the holographic display showed planet XJ-12 rotating slowly in the center of the war room. 17 red markers blinked across its green surface, each one representing a failed mission. Admiral West stood with his hands behind his back, his weathered face showing no emotion as he studied the planet that had claimed so many lives. "Every species that has tried to land on this planet has died," said the tall, blue-skinned Federation representative named Tull. His large eyes reflected the glow of the hologram. "We call it the Devourer. We strongly advise against any human missions to XJ-12. Admiral West nodded slowly. "Thank you for your concern. We've read the reports." "Then you understand," Tull said, relief in his voice. "Good. There are many other, suitable planets for human expansion." "You misunderstand me," West said. "I was thanking you for the information. Earth Command has already approved the mission. We launch in 3 days." Tull's skin darkened with alarm. "That is unwise. 17 species far more advanced than humans have perished there. The jungle consumes everything." West turned to face the alien diplomat. "With all due respect, those 17 species weren't human." Commander Tom Miller checked his equipment one final time as the dropship entered XJ-12's atmosphere. The craft shook violently, buffeted by storms that seemed to appear from nowhere. "Weather patterns are changing rapidly," said Ryan, the pilot. "It's like the atmosphere knows we're here." Tom looked at his team, 6 of Earth's finest specialists, each chosen for their skills and mental toughness. Lisa Chen, their biologist, was already taking readings of the atmosphere. Mike, weapons specialist, checked his rifle with practiced hands. The twins, Ben and Jay, both engineers, ran diagnostics on their equipment. Kate, the team doctor, reviewed medical protocols on her tablet. "Remember," Tom said, "we're not here to fight a war. This is reconnaissance only. We gather information, we study the environment, and we leave in 10 days. The Federation has lost 17 species trying to colonize this place. We're just here to understand why." The ship landed in a small clearing, the only spot they could find in the dense jungle that covered the planet. As the door opened, hot, humid air rushed in, carrying strange smells, sweet, rotting, and something else none of them could identify. "Oxygen levels higher than Earth," Lisa reported, studying her instruments. "Lots of unknown compounds in the air, but nothing immediately toxic to humans." Tom stepped out first, his boots sinking slightly into the rich, dark soil. The jungle towered around them, massive trees with purple-tinted leaves that moved even when there was no wind. Vines as thick as a man's arm wrapped around everything. Flowers bigger than human heads opened and closed as if breathing. "It's beautiful," Kate whispered. "Beautiful things can kill you just as dead as ugly ones," Mike said, scanning the edge of the clearing with his weapon ready. Tom ordered the team to set up a perimeter of sensors around their landing site. These would warn them of any approaching life forms and analyze the environment continuously. By nightfall, they had established a secure base camp with defensive measures in place. That first night, they all heard the screams, distant, echoing calls of creatures hunting or being hunted. In the darkness beyond their lights, no one slept well. On the second day, Lisa made her first important discovery. "The plants are talking to each other," she said, showing Tom readings from her equipment. "Not like Earth plants that send chemical signals. This is different, faster, more complex. It's almost like a nervous system running through the entire jungle." Tom frowned. "You're saying the whole jungle is connected? Like one organism? Maybe. Or maybe it's many organisms working together perfectly. Either way, it explains how previous expeditions were overwhelmed so quickly. If one part of the jungle detects an intruder, every part knows almost instantly. So the jungle knows." "We're here," Tom said. Lisa nodded. "It's watching us right now." That evening, the first attack came, not from large predators or poisonous plants, but from the air itself. A strange yellow pollen began falling in their camp, causing severe allergic reactions. Kate worked quickly, treating the symptoms while the team donned their breathing masks. The main trees weren't producing this pollen an hour ago. Lisa said, collecting samples. They made it specifically for us. They're testing our defenses. By the 5th day, the attacks had grown more coordinated. Vines grew at impossible speeds toward their camp each night, forcing the team to cut them back each morning. Strange insects with acid-filled bodies dropped from the canopy, eating through equipment. The ground itself seemed to shift, becoming unstable beneath their feet in random patterns. Federation records showed that most expeditions failed within the first week. Tom's team was holding out, adapting to each new threat. They worked in pairs, watching each other's backs, modifying their equipment to resist the jungle's attacks. On the 7th day, they lost Ben. He was just 20 feet from camp, checking a sensor, when the ground beneath him simply disappeared. One moment he was there, the next he was gone, pulled under by what looked like normal soil that had somehow turned to liquid. His screams lasted only seconds. When the ground solidified again, there was no trace of him. Jay, his twin brother, had to be sedated. The remaining team members doubled their vigilance, but morale had been shattered. "We need to leave," Kate told Tom that night. "This place, it's not just hostile, it's smart. It's learning about us faster than we're learning about it." Tom knew she was right, but their mission wasn't complete. "2 more days," he said. "We need more data. Earth needs to know what they're dealing with." On the 9th day, the jungle's strategy changed. The attack stopped completely. Nothing tried to kill them for 24 hours. The sudden peace was more unsettling than the constant attacks had been. "It's planning something bigger," Lisa said, not looking up from her microscope. She had been studying soil samples, finding strange cells that seemed to change their structure before her eyes. "The jungle isn't giving up. It's gathering its strength." That night, as the team prepared to sleep in shifts as usual, Lisa rushed into the command tent, her face pale. "The plants are producing a new toxin," she said. "I just identified it. It's airborne, it can penetrate our current filters, and it attacks the nervous system. Based on its chemical structure, it would paralyze humans while leaving them conscious." "How long do we have?" Tom asked. "Hours. Maybe less." Tom made the call. "We're evacuating now. Pack only essential data and equipment." As they prepared for emergency departure, Ryan's voice came through their comms. "Commander, there's a problem with the ship. The hull is dissolving." Tom ran to the landing site. The dropship's metal skin was covered in a thin film of green growth that was eating through the alloy like acid. Underneath, the ship's systems were already compromised. "How long to fix it?" Tom asked. Ryan shook his head. "Too long. Whatever this stuff is, it's specifically targeting our technology. It's like the jungle analyzed our ship and designed something just to destroy it." Tom looked up at the canopy above them, suddenly aware of how the leaves seemed to be watching them, how the vines had slowly encircled their camp, cutting off escape routes one by one. "Back to camp," he ordered. "We fortify our position and call for extraction. The Federation warned us, now we know why." That night, as they huddled in their camp waiting for a rescue ship that was still days away, the jungle finally made its full attack. Massive creatures with armor-like skin charged the perimeter. Plants released clouds of paralyzing spores. The ground beneath them became unstable, opening sudden pits. The team fought with everything they had. Mike's weapons cut down the larger creatures. Kate treated injuries even as she fought. Lisa worked frantically to modify their air filters. Jay programmed their remaining drones to defend the perimeter. Tom sent one final transmission to Earth before their communications were cut off. XJ-12 hostile beyond all estimates. The entire ecosystem functions as a unified defense system. Request immediate military response team with biological warfare specialists. One discovery may be crucial. Lisa found evidence that the jungle operates like an immune system. It doesn't just kill, it adapts to each threat. Send immunologists. Tell them to prepare for war. The transmission cut off. The Federation logged the loss of another expedition to the Devourer. They expected humans to give up like all others before them. They were wrong. Lisa Chen woke up in a medical pod, surrounded by the steady beep of monitors. Her arms were covered in healing patches, and a breathing mask supplied clean oxygen to her lungs. For a moment, she thought she was still on XJ-12, still fighting. The jungle. Then a face appeared above her, an older man in a white coat with kind eyes. "You're safe, Dr. Chen," he said. "You're back on Earth Station Alpha. I'm Dr. Wilson." Lisa tried to speak, but her throat was too dry. Dr. Wilson helped her sip water through a straw. "The others?" she finally managed to ask. Dr. Wilson's expression darkened. "I'm sorry. You were the only survivor. The rescue team found you in a small cave, protected by some kind of barrier you built." Memories flashed through Lisa's mind. Tom's last order for her to run with the samples while the others held off the final attack. The cave she found, using the last of her supplies to seal the entrance. "How long?" she asked. 3 weeks since. The rescue team brought you back. You've been in medical coma for most of it. Your body was fighting off several unknown toxins." Lisa sat up suddenly, ignoring the pain. "My samples? My data?" "All preserved," Dr. Wilson assured her. "In fact, there's someone who very much wants to talk to you about them." General Marcus Reed was not what Lisa expected. Instead of a typical military commander, he was a slender man with glasses and a thoughtful expression. His office walls were covered with plants, earth plants, carefully arranged in glass cases. "Dr. Chen," he said, rising to greet her as she was wheeled into his office. "I'm very glad you survived." "General," she nodded. Her body was still weak, but her mind was sharp. "I understand you want to know about XJ-12. "Yes. More specifically, I want to know how you survived when no one else has." He gestured to a screen on the wall which showed images of her samples and data. "Your discovery about the jungle behaving like an immune system, it's fascinating." Lisa looked at the enlarged images of the cellular structures she had collected. "It's more than behavior, General. The entire planet functions as one organism. The trees, the animals, the insects, they're like different cells in a body, all working together to eliminate foreign threats." "Like white blood cells attacking an infection," Marcus said. "Exactly. The planet treated us like a disease, and it adapted to fight us specifically." Lisa pointed to one of the images. "See how these plant cells changed structure after exposure to our equipment? They were learning how to break down our technology." General Marcus nodded. "And that's why 17 different species have failed. The planet learned from each attempt, becoming more efficient at killing the next visitors." "But that's also its weakness," Lisa said, leaning forward. "It's an immune system, yes, but immune systems can be manipulated. On Earth, we have autoimmune disorders where the body attacks itself. We have immunotherapy where we trick the immune system into fighting cancer. We have vaccines that train the immune system to recognize threats." For the first time, a smile appeared on Marcus's face. "And that's why I've been ordered to form a new task force, Operation Immune Response, and I want you to head the scientific division." Over the next 6 months, a facility was built deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Here, Lisa worked with a team of Earth's best scientists, immunologists, botanists, zoologists, and military researchers. They studied her samples, ran simulations, and developed a strategy unlike anything tried before on XJ-12. Dr. Robert Park, a leading immunologist, became Lisa's closest collaborator. Together they spent countless hours analyzing the jungle's responses to different stimuli. "It's remarkable," Rob said one night as they reviewed test results. "The samples continue to adapt even in isolation. Look at how this vine section responds. When exposed to the metal from our ships, it immediately begins producing acid to dissolve it." Lisa nodded, watching the time-lapse recording. "And it remembers. When we expose it a second time, it reacts faster. But what if we change the composition of the metal slightly?" They ran the test again with a modified alloy. The vine struggled, trying different acids, taking longer to find one that worked. "That's it," Lisa whispered. "That's our way in. We need to confuse its immune response. Give it too many threats to adapt to at once." General Marcus called a meeting of the full task force to hear their findings. Military officers sat alongside scientists, all focused on the holographic display of XJ-12, rotating above the conference table. Conventional warfare won't work, Lisa explained. The more force we use, the stronger the jungle's response. Instead, we propose a three-phase approach based on immunotherapy principles. Rob stood up and continued. Phase 1. Distraction. We overwhelm the planet's immune system with multiple foreign bodies at different points, like giving a patient with allergies a controlled exposure to trigger a response. Lisa pointed to the hologram, which now showed multiple landing zones, marked across the planet's surface. Phase 2. Infiltration. While the jungle is busy fighting the distractions, we insert specialized teams with modified genetic and technological signatures to confuse the planet's recognition systems. Like disguising medicine to get past the body's defenses, Rob added. And Phase 3, Lisa concluded. Redirection. We introduce compounds that will gradually alter how the jungle perceives human presence, from threat to neutral or even symbiotic entity. The room was silent for a moment. Then a colonel in the back spoke up. You want to make friends with a planet that's killed hundreds of our people? Not friends, Lisa corrected. We want to establish tolerance, like a transplant patient's body learning to accept a new organ. General Marcus stood. This approach is unorthodox, but conventional methods have failed 17 times. President Cole has approved the operation. He turned to the hologram. The question is not if we go back to XJ12, but how we win when we do. Training for Operation Immune Response began immediately. Special Forces soldiers learned to move in biomimetic suits designed to mask their human signatures. Engineers built drones that mimic the jungle's own creatures. Scientists developed compounds that could alter the planet's perception systems. Lisa watched from the observation deck as Captain Jack Thompson led his squad through a simulated jungle environment. The facility had recreated XJ12's conditions as best they could, using Lisa's data to program attack patterns. They're getting better, Rob said, joining her. Thompson's team lasted 30 minutes longer today. It won't be enough, Lisa replied. The real jungle is smarter, faster, and has more weapons than we can simulate. Then why do you look so confident? Rob asked. Lisa smiled. Because we have something the jungle doesn't have. Something none of those 17 species had either. What's that? Experience being sick, Lisa said. Humans have evolved alongside thousands of diseases. Our bodies fight off invasions every day. We understand, on a fundamental level, what it means to be both the immune system and the invader. We know how to hack biological defenses because we've been doing it to ourselves for centuries. Rob considered this. You really think we can succeed where advanced civilizations failed? Lisa watched as Thompson's team regrouped after a simulated attack, quickly adapting their tactics. Those civilizations tried to conquer the jungle or hide from it. We're going to do something different. What? We're going to teach it. The day of launch arrived faster than anyone expected. Lisa stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station, watching as the massive fleet prepared to depart for XJ12. Nervous? General Marcus asked, joining her. Terrified, Lisa admitted, but also certain this will work. Below them, hundreds of ships were being loaded with equipment, personnel, and the specialized biological agents they had developed. The largest military operation in human history, all based on Lisa's discovery about a jungle that thought like an immune system. The Federation representatives think we're insane, Marcus said with a small smile. They've placed bets on how quickly we'll be wiped out. Let them bet, Lisa replied. They don't understand what we're really doing. And what's that, Doctor? Lisa turned to face the general. We're not just going to war with a jungle, sir. We're going to change how it thinks. We're going to teach a planet that not everything foreign is a threat. Through the window, the first wave of ships began to move away from the station, engines glowing blue against the darkness of space. Operation Immune Response had begun. The jungle was about to face an enemy unlike any it had encountered before, humans who understood what it meant to fight an infection from both sides. Captain Jack Thompson watched from the command ship as the first wave launched toward XJ12. Not soldiers, but machines, 500 unmanned drones designed to look like standard landing craft spread out across the planet's surface, each targeting a different region. "First wave away," reported the flight controller. "All units on course." On the main screen, the green surface of XJ-12 grew larger. Jack remembered the briefings, the simulations, the warnings. No species had survived this planet longer than 30 days. He glanced at the mission clock that had been installed in every ship, every suit, every piece of equipment. 30. Counting down. General Marcus stood beside him, his face showing no emotion. Phase 1 begins now. The jungle reacted exactly as Lisa had predicted. As the first drones landed, breaking through the dense canopy, the planet's defense system activated instantly. Vines shot upward, wrapping around the metal hulls. Strange. Creatures emerged from the undergrowth, attacking with claws and acid. The ground itself seemed to try to swallow the intruders. In the command ship, Lisa watched the data streaming in from the drone's sensors. Each machine was programmed to fight, back just enough to be considered a threat, but not enough to be destroyed too quickly. "Look at these readings," she said to Rob, pointing at the screen. "The jungle is diverting resources from other areas to attack the drones. Nutrient flows, creature movements, even weather patterns are shifting." Rob nodded. "It's working. The planet's immune system is fully engaged with what it thinks is a major invasion. Now comes the tricky part," Lisa said. "We have to time Phase 2 perfectly. Too soon and the jungle will still have reserves to fight us. Too late, and it will have already destroyed enough drones to free up resources." General Marcus joined them at the monitoring station. "Dr. Chen, what's your assessment?" Lisa studied the patterns on her screen, watching the jungle's responses across 12 different landing zones. "The reaction is stronger than we anticipated, but that's good for us. The planet is committing more resources than necessary." She looked up at the general. "We should launch Phase 2 in 3 hours when the jungle's response system is fully stretched." 3 hours later, Jack led his team to the dropships. Unlike the first wave of decoy drones, these vessels were specially designed to minimize their impact on the jungle's sensory systems. Their hulls were coated with compounds derived from the jungle's own plants, and their engines were modified to emit heat patterns similar to the planet's natural volcanic vents. Jack's soldiers wore the most advanced biomimetic suits ever created, a second skin that partially masked their human signatures while allowing full mobility. Each soldier had undergone genetic treatments to temporarily alter their external cellular structure, making them less immediately recognizable as foreign to the jungle. "Remember your training," Jack told his team as they prepared to drop. "We're not fighting the jungle head-on. We're slipping through its defenses while it's distracted. No unnecessary contact with the environment. Use the pathways exactly as planned. This isn't about conquering territory. It's about establishing footholds." The 12 dropships departed the command vessel silently, each heading to a different location far from the decoy landings. Jack's ship aimed for a region near the equator, where a small clearing had been identified as ideal for their purposes. As they entered the atmosphere, Jack felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. But this was different from any combat drop he'd experienced before. They weren't dropping into enemy territory. They were infiltrating a living organism's bloodstream like a carefully designed medicine. The landing was perfect. Jack's team deployed quickly, setting up their equipment with practiced efficiency. The clearing was surrounded by massive purple-leafed trees that seemed to watch them, but there was no immediate attack. "Perimeter secure," reported Scott, Jack's second in command. "No hostile movement detected." Jack activated the first of their specialized devices, a small disc that, when placed on the ground, began emitting signals that mimicked the jungle's own communication patterns. These translator discs were Lisa's invention, designed to confuse the planet's ability to identify foreign objects. Phase 2, deployment successful, Jack reported to the command ship. Beginning establishment of Base Alpha. Over the next hours, all 12 infiltration teams reported similar success. The jungle, still focused on the decoy drones that continued to fight across the planet, had not yet detected the smaller, disguised human teams. By the end of the first day, Jack's team had established a secure perimeter 20 meters in diameter. The specially treated soil they spread created a barrier that the jungle's roots seemed reluctant to cross. The biomimetic tents they erected blended with the surrounding vegetation. "So far, so good," Scott said as night fell. "But we all know what happened to the previous missions. The jungle adapts." Jack nodded. "That's why we have Phase 3. We're not trying to hide forever. We're changing the rules of engagement." Back on the command ship, Lisa monitored all 12 bases continuously. "It's working better than we expected," she told General Marcus during the daily briefing. "The jungle is still focusing over 70% of its resources on the decoy drones. It hasn't recognized our real presence yet." "How long can we maintain this advantage?" Marcus asked. "Based on the data, I estimate 5 to 7 days before the jungle begins to detect anomalies in the areas where our teams are based. That's when we start Phase 3. Rob pointed to a display showing the biological agents they had developed. "These compounds are ready for deployment. Once the jungle starts to notice the bases, we'll introduce these gradually into the surrounding soil. They're designed to alter how the planet's defense system categorizes human presence." "Like changing someone's blood type?" Marcus asked. "More like teaching a body that peanuts aren't dangerous," Lisa explained. "We're not trying to hide from the immune system anymore. We're training it to recognize us as non-threatening." On day 5, Jack's team noticed the first signs that the jungle was becoming aware of them. The leaves of nearby trees began to turn toward their camp. Small insects appeared at the edges of their perimeter, seemingly testing the barriers. Phase 3. "Authorization confirmed," came the message from command. "Begin compound deployment." Jack personally oversaw the deployment of the first canisters. These devices slowly released carefully engineered biological compounds into the soil around their base. Unlike weapons, these were more like vaccines, designed not to kill the jungle, but to teach it. "How will we know if it's working?" Scott asked as they watched the canisters disappear into the dark soil. "If it works, nothing happens," Jack replied. "That's the point. The jungle learns to ignore us." By day 15, all 12 human bases remained intact, already breaking the previous survival record for any alien presence on XJ-12. The jungle had discovered them, but its attacks were confused, uncoordinated. In some areas, the plants near the human bases had stopped showing signs of hostility altogether. In the command ship, Lisa couldn't contain her excitement as she showed the latest readings to General Marcus. "Look at this. The vegetation around Base Gamma has actually started growing toward the compound instead of away from it. The biological agents are working even better than we hoped." "So we've won?" Marcus asked. "Not yet," Lisa cautioned. "We've made progress, but the planet's immune system is complex. Different regions are responding differently. Some areas are still highly hostile." As if to confirm her words, an emergency signal came in from Base Delta. The jungle had suddenly launched a massive attack, overwhelming their defenses with new creatures never seen before, predators with armor that could withstand human weapons, and plants that produced toxins capable of penetrating their protective suits. "The planet is adapting," Rob said grimly. "It's developing new defenses specifically designed against our current measures." Lisa nodded. "Just like a body developing new antibodies against a persistent infection. This was expected." She turned to General Marcus. "It's time for the contingency plan. We need to deploy the pulse." On day 21, Jack received new gear orders. His team was to place special devices at key points around their base, devices that would emit a strong electromagnetic pulse combined with specific biological agents. The pulse would temporarily disrupt the jungle's communication network, giving the biological agents time to spread further than would normally be possible. "This is risky," Scott said as they placed the last device. "If this doesn't work, the jungle will hit back harder than ever." Jack looked up at the canopy above them, where purple leaves seemed to watch their every move. "Sometimes the only way to win a fight is to change the rules. That's what we're doing here. We're not trying to beat the jungle at its own game. We're teaching it a new one." As the mission clock passed the 25-day mark, all bases prepared for the synchronized activation of the pulse devices. In the command ship, Lisa, Rob, and General Marcus watched tensely. Pulse activation in 3, 2, 1. Now, Lisa counted down. Across the planet, 12 electromagnetic pulses fired simultaneously. For a brief moment, the jungle went silent. The war had entered its final phase. For 3 full days after the pulse, the jungle remained eerily quiet. The massive trees stopped their constant movement. The predators retreated deep into the undergrowth. Even the weather, which had been launching storms at human encampments, grew calm. In Base Alpha, Captain Jack walked the perimeter, feeling uneasy about the silence. The mission clock had passed the 30-day mark. They had officially survived longer than any previous alien expedition. But Jack's instincts told him this wasn't victory. It was the calm before a storm. "Something's coming," he told Scott, as they inspected the defensive barriers. "The jungle's not dead. It's thinking." Scott nodded. "The scientists say the pulse disrupted its communication network, but they also say it won't last." "When it recovers," Jack said, looking up at the still purple leaves above them, "it's going to hit back hard." On the command ship, Commander, Anna Wright had taken over operational control. General Marcus had been called back to Earth to brief the President, leaving Anna in charge of the entire mission. As a veteran of 3 planetary conflicts, she was respected by the military teams. As a former xenobiologist, she was trusted by the scientists. "The pulse worked better than expected," Lisa explained during the morning briefing. "We disrupted the jungle's nervous system across nearly 40% of the planet. The biological agents have spread further than we hoped." "But?" Anna asked, sensing the scientist's hesitation. "But the jungle is already starting to recover," Rob finished. "And when complex systems recover from massive trauma, they often come back different." Anna studied the planetary scans. "Different how?" "We don't know," Lisa admitted. "That's what worries me. We've pushed the planet's immune system in a way it's never been pushed before. Its response could be unpredictable." As if on cue, alarms began to sound across the command center. One of the technicians called out, "Commander, we're detecting massive biological activity near Base Epsilon." On the main screen, thermal imaging showed a wave of heat signatures converging on the base from all directions. Hundreds, then thousands, of life forms moving with clear purpose. "Get me Captain Harris at Epsilon," Anna ordered. The screen split to show the face of Epsilon's commander, her expression grim. "We're surrounded," Harris reported. "New predator species, nothing we've seen before. They're larger, and our scans show they have thicker armor, specifically in the areas our weapons target." Anna looked at Lisa. "The jungle is adapting to our weapons," Lisa nodded slowly. "It's learning faster than we anticipated. The pulse may have disrupted its communication, but when it recovered, it seems to have rebuilt those pathways more efficiently." "Epsilon needs backup," Anna decided. "Prepare a combat drop from..." "Well, Commander," Harris interrupted, her voice tight with stress. "They're breaching the perimeter. Our barriers aren't stopping them. We need to evacuate now." The screen from Base Epsilon went dark. Over the next 12 hours, 3 more bases reported similar attacks. Each time, the jungle sent new creatures specifically evolved to counter human defenses. At Base Gamma, swarms of tiny insects bypassed their air filters with bodies so small they could slip through the mesh. At Base Theta, the ground itself turned acidic, eating through their foundation materials. At Base Kappa, spores in the air caused equipment to malfunction. The jungle was learning, adapting, and hitting back. Anna called an emergency meeting with all team leaders. Jack attended via secure link from Base Alpha, which hadn't yet been attacked. "The planet's immune system hasn't just recovered," Lisa explained, her face pale with lack of sleep. "It's evolved. The pulse forced it to rebuild its communication network, and it built it better, faster. Now it's creating specific countermeasures for each of our technologies." "We've lost 4 bases and 37 personnel," Anna summarized, grimly. "At this rate, we'll be wiped out within days." We need options. Rob spoke up. We expected adaptation, but not this fast. The biological agents we deployed were supposed to gradually teach the jungle to tolerate us, but it's rejecting them completely. So we failed, one of the military commanders said flatly. No, Jack said, his voice cutting through the despair. We haven't failed. We've learned. Every species before us tried to either hide from the jungle or overpower it. Neither worked. We tried a middle path, partial disguise, partial communication. That's not working either. What are you suggesting, Captain? Anna asked. Something radical, Jack replied. Dr. Chen's original insight was that the jungle functions like an immune system. But we've been treating it like a simple immune system, like a body that can only say self or not self. What if it's more complex than that? Lisa leaned forward. Go on. On Earth, our bodies don't just fight everything foreign. They learn to tolerate things, beneficial bacteria, food, even other people's cells during pregnancy. What if we stop trying to trick the jungle and instead show it we can be beneficial? How would we possibly do that? Anna asked. Jack looked at the scientists. You've analyzed this planet for months. What does it need? What's it missing that we could provide? There was silence for a moment. Then Rob's eyes widened. Certain trace elements. Our soil analysis showed the jungle is poor in several minerals that are crucial for plant growth on Earth. The vegetation here has evolved complex systems to recycle what little they have. So we offer the jungle something it needs, Jack said. We change our approach from infiltration to symbiosis. 2 days later, as Base Alpha came under attack from the new evolved predators, Jack implemented the desperate plan. Instead of strengthening their barriers, his team opened specific sections of their perimeter and deployed containers of mineral-rich solutions directly into the soil. This is insane, Scott muttered, as they watched the jungle's creatures approach the opening. We're inviting them in. Not inviting, Jack corrected. Offering a trade. The leading predators, massive six-limbed creatures with armor-like skin, paused at the opening, clearly confused by the lack of resistance. Behind them, the moving plants that had been probing the barriers also stopped. Jack activated the special dispensers they had created, releasing a fine mist of mineral-rich compounds into the air. Now we wait, he said, and hope the jungle is smart enough to recognize a gift when it sees one. On the command ship, Anna watched the feeds from the remaining bases, all of which were now implementing variations of Jack's plan. Some offered minerals. Others provided specific compounds the scientists had identified as potentially valuable to the jungle's ecosystem. I don't understand, one of the military advisors said. We're helping the thing that's trying to kill us? We're changing the relationship, Lisa explained. Instead of being perceived as an infection to be eliminated, we're trying to establish ourselves as a symbiotic partner. Anna nodded. It's like the difference between harmful bacteria that the body fights and beneficial bacteria that help with digestion. Same foreign organisms, different relationship. On the screen, they watched as the predators at Base Alpha slowly retreated. The plants stopped their aggressive growth toward the human structures. There was no immediate acceptance, but the attack had paused. It's working, Rob said softly. The jungle is reassessing us. At Base Alpha, Jack ordered his team to continue with their normal activities, but with a crucial difference. Each task now included some component that benefited the surrounding ecosystem. Water filtration systems were modified to improve soil quality around the base. Energy emissions were adjusted to support plant growth rather than hinder it. We're showing the jungle we can be useful, Jack explained to his skeptical team, that we're not just taking, but giving. By the third day of the new approach, something remarkable happened. The plants nearest to the base began to grow differently, not toward the humans in attack, but in patterns that created natural pathways between human structures. They're accommodating us, Lisa said when Jack reported the change. The jungle is adapting to our presence, but not to reject us, to incorporate us. Not all bases saw the same results. Some continued to face attacks, though less coordinated than before. The jungle, it seemed, was experimenting, testing different responses to the human presence in different areas. It's like the planet has multiple immune strategies and is trying to decide which one to use with us, Rob theorized. In some areas, it's still treating us as a threat. In others, it's considering the possibility of coexistence. On day 45, as the human expedition passed the previous survival record by more than 2 weeks, a massive storm system began forming over Base Alpha. The weather patterns, which had been one of the jungle's most effective weapons, were gathering for what looked like a final overwhelming assault. "Everyone inside," Jack ordered as the wind began to howl. "Secure all equipment." The storm grew until it blotted out the sky, swirling directly above the base with unnatural precision. Lightning struck around the perimeter, and rain fell in, sheets so thick it was like standing under a waterfall. In the command bunker, Jack and his team waited for the worst. The walls shook with the force of the wind. Water began seeping through seals that had never failed before. "If this doesn't stop soon, we won't survive," Scott shouted over the noise of the storm. Jack looked at the mission clock, 45:18:07. They had come so far, changed so many assumptions about what was possible on this planet. He refused to accept defeat now. "Deploy the Gaia protocol," he ordered. Scott looked shocked. "That's our last resort. We don't know what it will do to the jungle." "We don't know what this storm will do to us either," Jack replied. "But I'd rather try something new than die doing the same thing." The Gaia protocol was a radical technology developed as an absolute last option, a device that could temporarily disrupt the jungle's entire communication network much more powerfully than the earlier pulse. The risk was enormous. No one could predict how the planet would react when its neural system was temporarily scrambled. As the storm reached its peak intensity, Jack activated the device. A high-pitched sound filled the air, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The rain stopped in midair, the wind went silent, the lightning paused between cloud and ground, then darkness fell. Jack woke to sunlight warming his face. He blinked, confused. The last thing he remembered was activating the Gaia protocol as the storm raged around Base Alpha. He had expected destruction, not this. He sat up slowly, finding himself not in the command bunker but outside, lying on soft purple grass. The base structure stood nearby, undamaged. The sky above was clear blue, without the usual swirling clouds that had threatened them for weeks. "Captain," Scott rushed over, helping him to his feet. "You've been unconscious for almost 12 hours. The storm? Gone. Just vanished after you activated the device." Scott's expression was a mix of relief and confusion. "But that's not the strangest part. Look around you." Jack turned slowly, taking in their surroundings. The jungle had changed. The aggressive vines that had constantly probed their defenses were gone. The trees had shifted, creating a natural clearing around the base. Most surprisingly, some of the purple leaves had fallen to create a soft path leading from the base into the jungle. "It's like this everywhere," Scott said. "All the surviving bases report the same thing. The jungle isn't attacking anymore. It's making room for us." On the command ship, Commander Anna stared at the screens showing the transformed landscape around each remaining base. Scientists rushed from station to station, analyzing readings and debating theories. "The Gaia protocol did more than disrupt the jungle's communication network," Lisa explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "It forced a complete neural reset, like restarting a computer. When the system came back online, it processed all the information it had about us in a new way, including the fact that we were offering beneficial elements rather than just fighting," Rob added. "It's like the jungle suddenly recognized a pattern it had missed before." Anna shook her head in wonder. "So it's not attacking because it's reassessing what we are," Lisa said. "The jungle's core function is to protect itself from threats. For 300 years, it has treated every alien species as an infection to be eliminated. The Gaia protocol forced it to reconsider that classification. So we're not out of danger," Anna concluded. "The jungle could still decide we're a threat." "Yes," Rob admitted, "but the fact that it's creating paths instead of barriers suggests it's open to a different kind of relationship." "I'm sending a team down," Anna decided. "I need to see this for myself." 3 days later, Anna led a small group from the command ship to Base Alpha. Jack met them at the landing site, which was now surrounded by strange flowers that turned toward the ship like curious onlookers. "Welcome to the new XJ-12, Jack said with a smile. "It's been quiet since the storm. No attacks, no sabotage of equipment. The jungle seems to be waiting." "Waiting for what?" Anna asked as they walked toward the base. "I think it's waiting to learn more about us," Jack replied, "like it's studying us." Lisa, who had come down with Anna, knelt to examine one of the flowers. "These weren't here before. The jungle is creating new species right before our eyes, plants specifically designed to interact with us." At the base, Jack showed them how his team had expanded their operations, working in cooperation with the transformed jungle. They had established gardens where they grew earth plants alongside native species, sharing water and nutrients. They had created walking paths that merged with the natural openings the jungle had provided. "It's not exactly peace," Jack explained. "More like a tentative truce. We're careful not to damage anything unnecessarily, and the jungle allows us to move through it." "The Federation representatives are in shock," Anna told him. "They've requested permission to send their own observers. No one can believe we've survived for 60 days now." "Tell them they're welcome," Jack said. "But they need to understand the rules. We didn't conquer this planet. We reached an understanding with it." Over the next month, the human presence on XJ-12 grew cautiously. New bases were established, each one following the principles discovered at Alpha. Offer benefits to the ecosystem, minimize disruption, and maintain open spaces for the jungle to interact. Dr. Robb led a research team that made breakthrough after breakthrough in understanding the planet's unique biology. "The jungle doesn't just communicate," he explained during one briefing. "It evolves in real time, creating new species for specific purposes. It's like watching evolution happen in days, instead of millennia." One morning, Lisa was working in the lab at Base Alpha when Jack rushed in. "You need to see this," he said, leading her outside. At the edge of the base, where the human gardens met the native jungle, something extraordinary was happening. A new plant was growing, but unlike anything they had seen before. It had the purple leaves of native vegetation, but the structure of an earth tomato plant. As they watched, it produced a small fruit that was neither exactly tomato nor any known native species. "It's hybridizing," Lisa whispered in awe. "The jungle is combining our plants with its own." "Not just combining," Jack said. "Improving. Look at how the stem has the flexibility of jungle plants but the fruit-bearing capacity of earth plants." The discovery sparked a new phase of research. The jungle, it seemed, wasn't just tolerating humans. It was learning from them, incorporating their biology and technology into its own system in ways that benefited both. 1 year after the first human landing on XJ-12, a formal ceremony marked the establishment of Harmony Base, the first permanent human settlement on the planet. Representatives from Earth and the Galactic Federation gathered in a large clearing that the jungle had specially created for the occasion. The Federation ambassador, a tall, blue-skinned alien named Tull, the same one who had warned Admiral West against the mission, stood in amazement as humans moved freely through areas where 17 species had perished. "I still don't understand," he told Commander Anna. "How did you succeed where everyone else failed? Your technology isn't more advanced. Your weapons aren't more powerful." Anna smiled. "Walk with me," she said, leading him down a path where jungle plants gently moved aside as they approached. "What do you see around you?" "A jungle that should be killing us," Tull replied bluntly. "Look closer," Anna urged. "See how the plants grow? They're creating spaces for us to walk. See those fruits hanging just at human reach? They're non-toxic to us, though they weren't before. The jungle didn't surrender to us and we didn't defeat it. We changed the relationship." They stopped at a small pond where earthfish now swam alongside native aquatic creatures. Children from the settlement played nearby, watched over by both human guards and strange, gentle creatures that had evolved specifically to protect human young. Other species tried to either conquer this planet or isolate themselves from it, Anna continued. Both approaches triggered the jungle's immune response. "We did something different," What? Asked Tull. We offered partnership instead of just fighting infection. On Earth, our bodies don't just fight invaders, they learn to recognize friends from enemies. Our gut contains trillions of foreign bacteria that help us digest food. Our skin hosts organisms that protect us from harmful ones. Anna watched as a child cautiously offered a fruit to one of the jungle creatures, which accepted it gently. We didn't wage war against this planet, she explained. We taught it to recognize the difference between an invasion and a handshake. Tull considered this, his large eyes reflecting the strange harmony around them. Your species is unusual, he finally said. The Federation has much to learn from humans. Anna smiled. And we have much to learn from the jungle. That's the point. The strongest relationships are those where both sides have something to offer and something to gain. As the sun set over Harmony Base, casting a golden glow across the purple landscape, humans and jungle continued their careful dance of coexistence. Neither had truly conquered the other. Instead, they had created something entirely new, a partnership unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The mission clock, once counting down to an expected failure, had been reprogrammed. Now it counted up, marking days of successful coexistence, 365, and rising. The jungle planet that no species had survived had become the planet that taught humanity, and the galaxy, a new definition of victory. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Iron Will, watching the stars through the thick glass window. His hands rested on the metal rail as he looked at the cargo hold readings on his screen. 3 months of hard work in the asteroid belt had paid off. The ship was full of rare metals that would feed his crew's families for a year. Captain, we're 2 days out from Earth space, said Tom, the ship's engineer. He was a big man with oil-stained hands and a kind face. Engines are running smooth. Jake nodded. The Iron Will was not a pretty ship. She was built for work, not for looks. Her hull was thick steel painted gray and her engines were loud, but she was strong and she had never let them down. Good work, Tom, Jake said. Tell the crew we'll be home soon. Lisa, the pilot, sat at her controls near the front of the bridge. She was young but skilled, and Jake trusted her to fly them through anything. Captain, she called out, I'm seeing something strange on the sensors. Jake walked over to look at her screen. Small dots appeared at the edge of their scanner range. They were moving fast and coming their way. How many? Jake asked. 6 ships, maybe 7, Lisa said. Her voice was tight with worry. They're not showing any friendly signals. Jake felt his stomach drop. Out here in the outer rim, far from Earth's protection, meeting unknown ships was never good news. He had heard stories from other captains about pirates and worse things that hunted in the dark space between systems. Ben, get on the comm and try to contact them, Jake ordered. Ben was their communications officer, a thin man who could speak 4 different alien languages. Ben worked his controls for several minutes. Captain, they're not answering our calls, but I'm picking up their language. It's Velkari. Jake's blood went cold. Every human who worked the Outer Rim knew about the Velkari Dominion. They were a race of tall, gray-skinned aliens who had been taking over star systems for the past 50 years. They did not negotiate. They did not trade. They conquered. Red alert, Jake said quietly. All hands to battle stations. The Iron Will was not a warship. She had mining lasers and some basic shields, but against real military vessels she would not last long. Jake's crew of 6 humans was brave, but they were miners, not soldiers. The alien ships came closer. Through the bridge window, Jake could see them now. They were long and silver, shaped like knives cutting through space. Each one was twice the size of the Iron Will, and they moved with deadly grace. Incoming transmission, Ben said. Put it on speaker. The voice that filled the bridge was deep and cold. It spoke in broken human English with a strange accent. Human. Vessel, you will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. You will surrender your cargo and your crew will submit to processing. Jake grabbed the comm microphone. This is Captain Morrison of the Iron Will. We are a peaceful mining vessel returning to Earth space. We have done nothing wrong. A harsh laugh came through the speaker. Wrong. You exist in space that belongs to the Velkari Dominion. That is, wrong enough. You have 30 seconds to comply or we will take your ship by force. Jake looked around his bridge. Tom stood ready at the engineering station, his face grim but determined. Lisa had her hands on the flight controls, waiting for orders. Ben monitored the communications and Jake could see the other crew members on the internal screens, all at their posts. These were good people. They had families waiting for them back on Earth. Children who needed their fathers and mothers to come home. Jake had promised to bring them all back safely. 20 seconds, human, the alien voice said. Jake keyed the comm again. Velkari Commander, we will not surrender. This ship and her crew are under the protection of Earth's merchant marine. Any attack on us is an act of war. Another laugh. War? Your pathetic planet is light years away. No one will even know what happened to you. 10 seconds. Jake turned to his crew. All right, people. They want a fight, we'll give them one. Tom, give me everything the engines have. Lisa, random evasive pattern. Ben, send a distress signal toward Earth on all frequencies. Yes, sir, they all said together. The countdown reached 0. Jake waited for the alien ships to fire, but instead, something else happened. A strange purple cloud began to leak from the air vents throughout the ship. Captain, Tom shouted from engineering. Something's wrong with our air system. Unknown gas is flooding all sections. Jake could smell it now. It was sweet and thick, like rotting flowers. The purple mist filled the bridge quickly and Jake felt it burn his throat when he breathed. Masks, he ordered, but it was too late. The gas was everywhere, and there was nowhere to run. Ben fell to his knees, his eyes wide with terror. No, he whispered. They're coming for me. The dark things are coming. Lisa screamed and pushed away from her controls. The ship is falling. We're going to crash. I can't stop it. Tom was backing against the wall, swinging his wrench at empty air. Get away from me, the engines are going to explode. Jake watched his crew fall apart as the fear gas did its work. Each person was seeing their worst nightmares come to life. Their fears were so real to them that they could not think or act normally. The alien voice came through the comm again, now filled with satisfaction. You see, humans? This is Velkari fear gas. It has broken the will of 1,000 species. No being can resist its power. Your minds are now ours to control. Jake breathed in the purple mist and waited for the fear to take him. He thought about what scared him most, losing his crew, failing in his duty, dying alone in space. But something strange happened. The fear did not come. Instead, Jake felt calm. He looked at his crew members, who were trapped in their own personal hells, and he felt only determination. This ship was his responsibility. These people were his responsibility. He keyed the comm and spoke clearly into the microphone. Velkari Commander, you have made a mistake. Impossible, the alien voice sputtered. The gas concentration is at maximum levels. You should be insane with fear. Jake walked over to Lisa, who was curled up on the floor, shaking. He put his hand on her shoulder. Lisa, look at me. You're safe. The ship is fine. Trust me. Something in his voice, his complete lack of fear, cut through her gas-induced nightmare. She looked up at him and her breathing began to slow. The readings are wrong, the Velkari commander said, and Jake could hear confusion in the alien's voice. Increase the gas concentration, this human must be broken. More purple mist poured from the vents. Jake breathed it in deeply and smiled. You want to know what I'm afraid of? He said into the comm. I'm afraid of letting my crew down. I'm afraid of not getting them home to their families. But you know what? That fear doesn't make me weak. He moved to Ben next, helping him stand. It makes me strong. The Velkari ships hung in space around the Iron Will, their crews struggling to understand what they were seeing. Their most powerful weapon, the fear gas that had conquered worlds, was having no effect on this one human. and somehow his strength was spreading to his crew. Jake looked out at the alien ships through the bridge window. The Iron Will was still, outnumbered and outgunned. The fight was far from over, but for the first time since the Valkyrie had appeared, Jake felt like they had a chance. "Tom," he called to his engineer, who was now standing straighter, his fear fading. "How are those engines?" Tom checked his readings and grinned. "Running hot and ready, Captain. Lisa, can you fly us out of here?" The young pilot was back at her controls, her hands steady. "Just give me the word, sir." Jake keyed the comm one more time. "Valkyrie, Commander. Let me tell you something about humans. We've been afraid since the day we first looked up at the stars. Fear is what made us build ships to cross the void. Fear is what made us explore the unknown. Fear is what makes us fight when everything seems hopeless." He paused and looked around his bridge at his crew, all of them now standing ready. "This ship is strong," Jake said. "We are strong, and we're going home." General Thack stood in the command center of his flagship, the Dark Spear. His gray skin was pulled tight over sharp bones, and his black eyes stared at the screens showing the human ship. For 50 years, he had conquered worlds for the Valkyrie Dominion. Never had he seen a being resist the fear gas. "Increase the concentration," he ordered his weapons officer. "Double it." "Sir, that level of gas could kill them," the officer said. "Better dead than defiant," Thax replied coldly. On the Iron Will, more purple mist poured from every vent. The air became so thick that Jake could barely see across the bridge. His crew coughed and choked on the sweet burning gas, but Jake felt nothing except determination. He walked through the purple fog to where Tom was standing. The big engineer was shaking his head, fighting off visions of exploding engines and burning metal. "Tom, listen to my voice," Jake said calmly. "The engines are fine. Check your readings." Tom looked at his control panel with frightened eyes. In his gas-clouded mind, he saw red warning lights and damage alerts, but Jake's steady voice cut through the fear like a knife through cloth. I see the readings, Captain," Tom said slowly. "All green, all normal." "That's right. The ship is strong, just like us." Jake moved to the navigation station where Ben was curled up in his chair. The communications officer was mumbling in 3 different languages, his hands covering his ears as if trying to block out terrible sounds. "Ben," Jake said, putting his hand on the man's shoulder. "What do you hear?" "Voices," Ben whispered. "Screaming voices. The aliens are in my head, Captain. They're telling me terrible things." Jake looked at the communication controls. The Valkyrie were indeed sending psychological warfare signals along with their gas, but Jake could hear them clearly. They were just alien words meant to frighten. "Those aren't voices in your head, Ben. They're just alien broadcasts. You've heard alien languages before. Remember when we traded with the peaceful Centauri merchants last year?" Ben's breathing slowed. He looked up at Jake's calm face through the purple mist. Yes, I remember. They sounded strange too, but they were just talking." "Exactly. Block their signals and focus on our comm systems." Across the bridge, Lisa was pressed against the pilot controls, her eyes closed tight. She was the youngest of the crew, only 25 years old. The fear gas was showing her visions of ship crashes, of floating dead in space, of never seeing her baby daughter again. "Lisa," Jake called softly. "Captain, I can't fly," she said without opening her eyes. "Every time I touch the controls, I see us crashing. I see us dying." Jake moved to stand beside her chair. Around them, the purple gas swirled like a living thing, but his voice remained steady and strong. "Lisa, do you remember the first time you flew a ship?" "Yes," she whispered. "You were scared then too, weren't you?" "Terrified. But you flew anyway. You became the best pilot I've ever worked with. Fear didn't stop you then, and it won't stop you now." Lisa opened her eyes and looked at Jake. In the purple mist, his face was calm and confident. No fear touched him at all. "How are you doing this, Captain?" she asked. "How are you not afraid?" Jake smiled. "I am afraid, Lisa. I'm afraid of failing you and the crew. I'm afraid of not getting you home to your daughter. But being afraid doesn't mean being weak. On the Velkari flagship, General Thax watched his screens in growing anger. The gas readings showed deadly levels throughout the human ship, but the captain was moving freely, helping his crew recover. This is impossible, Thax growled. No species can resist our fear gas. We have used it on the warrior races of Antares, the hive minds of Vega, the ancient beings of the outer dark. All of them broke. His science officer, a thin Velkari named Vex, studied the readings carefully. General, the human's brain patterns are unusual. The gas is reaching him, but instead of triggering fear responses, it seems to be making him more focused. More focused? That makes no sense. Sir, perhaps we should study this further, if humans can resist our primary weapon. No, Thax said sharply. We will break this human and his crew, triple the gas concentration. On the human ship, the purple mist became so thick that it looked like purple water. Jake's crew struggled to breathe, but something strange was happening. As Jake moved among them, speaking calmly and confidently, their fear was fading. The medic, Doc Allen, was crouched in the corner of the bridge, seeing visions of diseases and death everywhere he looked. But when Jake knelt beside him, the old man's panic began to fade. Doc, we need you, Jake said simply. The crew needs their medic. I can't, Doc whispered. The gas. I see sickness everywhere. I see death. You've seen real sickness and real death before, Doc. You've saved lives in worse conditions than this. Remember when Tom broke his arm in the asteroid belt and you operated in zero gravity? Doc's eyes focused on Jake's face. Yes, I remember. I saved him. You did. And you'll save us all now. The last crew member on the bridge was Mary, their cargo specialist. She was young and strong, but the gas made her see terrible visions of losing everything they had worked for. Captain, she called out, the cargo bay, it's all gone. The aliens have taken everything. Jake walked to the cargo control station. The readings showed their mining hull was still secure in the ship's hold. Mary, look at the real readings, not what the gas makes you see. She looked at the screen with shaking hands. It's all there. All of it. That's right. We haven't lost anything yet. General Thax watched in disbelief as the human captain moved through his ship, somehow making the fear gas useless. The other humans were starting to stand up straight, to work at their stations again. General, his science officer said quietly, our psychological warfare division should study this. These humans might be— Enough, Thax roared. If gas will not break them, we will use force. All ships, prepare to board the human vessel. But as he gave the order, something unexpected happened. The human captain's voice came through the communication system, clear and strong. Velkari General, I want to thank you. Thank me? Thax was so surprised he almost laughed. Yes, your fear gas has shown my crew something important. It's shown them that fear is just another challenge to overcome. We humans have been overcoming fear for thousands of years. Jake stood on his bridge, surrounded by his crew who were now working normally despite the thick purple gas around them. Tom was checking engine systems. Lisa had her hand steady on the flight controls. Ben was monitoring alien communications. Doc was checking everyone's health readings. Mary was securing their cargo. You see, Jake continued, humans didn't become space travelers because we were brave. We became space travelers because we were afraid. We were afraid of staying on one world. We were afraid of the unknown. We were afraid of being alone in the universe. The Velkari ships moved closer, preparing to dock with the mining vessel. But we learned something about fear, Jake said. Fear isn't meant to stop us. Fear is meant to make us ready. It makes us careful. It makes us strong. It makes us fight harder when everything seems lost. General Thax felt something he had not felt in many years of conquest. He felt uncertain. Impossible, he said. Fear is weakness. We have proven this on 100 worlds. Maybe on 100 worlds, Jake replied. But not on this ship. This ship is human. We are human. And humans get stronger when we're afraid. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all standing ready, their fear transformed into determination. "Tom, how are those engines?" "Running hot and ready, Captain. Want me to give them full power?" "Lisa, can you get us out of here?" "Just say the word, Captain. I can fly through anything." Jake smiled and opened the ship's communication to all frequencies so every Velkari ship could hear him clearly. "General Thax, let me tell you what's going to happen next. We're going to fly out of here. We're going to take our cargo home. And we're going to tell everyone in human space that the great Velkari fear gas doesn't work on us." He paused, letting that sink in. "In fact, it makes us stronger." The purple gas still filled the air around them, but the crew of the Iron Will stood ready for whatever came next. They had faced their fears and won. General Thax stared at his screens in complete shock. The readings showed that the fear gas concentration inside the human ship was now at 5 times the lethal dose. Any other species would be dead by now, not just afraid. Yet the humans were, working at their stations as if nothing had happened. "Sir," his weapons officer said nervously, "perhaps we should reconsider. These humans are not like the others we have conquered." "Silence," Thax snapped. "They are just primitive beings from a backwater planet. There must be something wrong with our gas mixture." But even as he said it, Thax knew the truth. In 50 years of conquest, the Velkari fear gas had never failed. It had broken the minds of warrior races that had fought for thousands of years. It had destroyed the will of ancient civilizations. Yet these simple human miners were not only surviving it, they seemed to be getting stronger. On the Iron Will, Jake walked slowly around his bridge. The purple mist was so thick now that it looked like they were underwater, but his crew was working better than they had in months. "Ben, what are the aliens saying to each other?" Jake asked. Ben listened to his communication equipment for a moment, then smiled. "Captain, they're arguing. Some of them want to retreat. They're calling us the impossible humans." "Good," Jake said. "Lisa, how are our engines?" "All systems. Green, Captain. Tom's got them running perfectly." Tom wiped sweat from his forehead, but he was grinning. "I've never felt the engines respond like this before. It's like the ship wants to fight." Jake nodded. The Iron Will was more than just metal and machines to him. She was home. She was family. And no one threatened his family. "Mary, secure all cargo. We might need to move fast." "Already done, Captain," Mary replied. "Everything's locked down tight." Doc Allen was checking everyone's health readings on his medical scanner. "Captain, this is strange. The gas should be killing us, but everyone's vital signs are actually improving. Heart rates are steady, breathing is normal, brain activity is, well, it's better than normal." Jake wasn't surprised. He had felt it too. The fear gas wasn't hurting them anymore. Instead, it was like fuel for a fire that was already burning inside them. On the Velkari flagship, Science Officer Vex was studying the human readings with growing excitement and terror. "General," he said quietly, "I think I understand what's happening." "Explain," Thax demanded. "The fear gas works by finding what a being is most afraid of and making it seem real. But humans are different. They don't try to avoid their fears. They face them. That's impossible. Fear is the most basic survival instinct." "Yes, sir. But humans seem to use fear as motivation. The captain is afraid of failing his crew, so he becomes a better leader. The pilot is afraid of crashing, so she flies more carefully. The engineer is afraid of the engines failing, so he makes them run perfectly." Thax felt something cold in his stomach. "You're saying they turn fear into strength?" "Yes, sir. And our gas is giving them more fear to work with." On the human ship, Jake opened the communication channel to the Velkari fleet. "General Thax, are you listening?" "I am listening, human," Thax replied, his voice tight with anger. "I want to tell you a story," Jake said calmly. "A long time ago, humans lived in caves. We were small and weak. Big animals hunted us. We were afraid all the time. The Velkari ships hung in space around the Iron Will, their crews listening despite themselves. We could have stayed in those caves forever," Jake continued. "We could have hidden from everything that scared us, but instead we came out. We made fire to fight the darkness we feared. We made tools to fight the animals that hunted us. We built cities to protect ourselves from the storms we feared. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all listening, too, and he could see pride in their faces. Then we looked up at the night sky and saw all those stars, Jake said. We were terrified of that endless dark space. So naturally we built ships and came out here to explore it. General Thax felt his certainty cracking. Your point, human? My point is simple, General. Fear doesn't make humans weak. Fear makes humans dangerous. Jake walked to the pilot station where Lisa sat ready at the controls. Lisa, remember when you first learned to fly? What were you most afraid of? Crashing, Captain, she said loud enough for the aliens to hear. And what did that fear make you do? Practice more, study harder, learn every system on the ship. Tom, Jake called to his engineer. What scares you most about engines? That they'll break down when the crew needs them most, Tom replied. So what do? Check every system 3 times. Keep spare parts for everything. Know every bolt and wire. Jake smiled. You see, General? Our fears don't control us. We control our fears. We use them to become better than we were. On the Velkari flagship, Science Officer Vex was reading more data. General, their ship's performance is actually improving. Their engines are running more efficiently. Their navigation is more precise. Their communication systems are working better than our own. How is that possible? Because they're not fighting their fear, sir. They're using it. General Thax made a decision that would change everything. All ships, prepare to board the human vessel. If gas will not break them, we will take them by force. The 6 Velkari warships moved closer to the Iron Will. Docking tubes extended from their hulls like the arms of a giant spider. Jake watched them approach. Well, crew, they want to come aboard. Should we let them, Captain? Ben asked with a grin. Why not? It would be rude to keep our guests waiting. Jake turned to his crew. Remember, we're miners, not soldiers. But we're human miners. And humans have been fighting off things that wanted to hurt them since the beginning of time. Tom picked up his heavy wrench. I've got tools. Lisa stood up from her pilot seat. I've got reflexes. Ben checked his communication equipment. I can jam their signals. Doc Allen opened his medical kit. I know exactly where all their vital organs should be. Mary hefted a piece of mining equipment. I've got a plasma cutter. Jake nodded. And I've got the best crew in human space. The first Velkari boarding tube connected to the Iron Will with a loud clang. Through the ship's internal cameras, they could see gray-skinned aliens in black armor moving through the tube. Remember, Jake said calmly, they expect us to be afraid. They expect us to run and hide. They've conquered 100 worlds by making other species too scared to fight back. The airlock door began to glow as the aliens cut through it with their weapons. But we're not other species, Jake continued. We're humans. And the more scared we get, the more dangerous we become. The airlock door fell inward with a crash. Velkari soldiers poured through, their weapons ready, expecting to find cowering prisoners. Instead, they found Jake Morrison standing calmly in the corridor, his hands empty, his face showing no fear at all. Welcome aboard the Iron Will, Jake said politely. I hope you brought more than just fear gas. Behind him, his crew stood ready. The purple mist still filled the air around them, but instead of weakening them, it had made them into something the Velkari had never faced before. Humans who were more dangerous because they were afraid. The lead Velkari soldier raised his weapon, but something in Jake's calm confidence made him hesitate. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen a being look at him without fear. You should be terrified, the soldier said in broken human speech. Jake smiled. I am terrified. That's what makes this so much fun. What happened next would become a legend told throughout the galaxy about the day the Velkari Dominion learned that some species get stronger when they're afraid, and that humans are the most dangerous of all when they have something to protect. The lead Velkari soldier stood in the corridor, his weapon pointed at Jake's chest. Behind him, 12 more alien warriors filled the narrow space. They were tall and lean, with gray skin stretched tight over sharp bones. Their black armor gleamed under the ship's lights, and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Jake looked at them calmly. The purple fear gas still swirled around them all, but it might as well have been normal air to him. "You know what I'm thinking right now?" Jake said to the alien soldier. "You are thinking of surrender," the Velkari replied in his broken human speech. "No," Jake said with a small smile. "I'm thinking that you made a big mistake coming onto my ship." The soldier's finger tightened on his weapon trigger. "You are one human. We are many. You should be afraid." "I am afraid," Jake said honestly. "I'm afraid you're going to hurt my crew. I'm afraid you're going to take our cargo that we worked 3 months to gather. I'm afraid my people won't get home to their families." The alien looked confused. Beings who were afraid were supposed to beg for mercy, not stand there talking calmly. "Then you will surrender," the soldier said. "No," Jake replied. "See, that's where you don't understand humans. Being afraid doesn't make us give up. Being afraid makes us fight harder." Jake raised his voice so his crew could hear him throughout the ship. "Now." What happened next was like a carefully planned dance. Tom, the engineer, had been hiding around the corner. He swung his heavy wrench at the lead soldier's weapon, knocking it from his hands. The alien was strong, but Tom was stronger, and he was fighting for his life. Lisa dropped through a maintenance hatch above the aliens. She had always been afraid of heights, so she had learned to move through the ship's crawlways better than anyone. She landed behind the Velkari soldiers and hit the emergency door controls, sealing half of them in the corridor. Ben's voice came through the ship's speakers. "Attention alien boarders. Your communication with your ships has been cut. Your backup is not coming. You are alone on a human ship." Doc Allen appeared from a side passage holding a medical laser. "I've studied alien anatomy," he called out. "I know exactly where your major organs are located." Mary came up from the cargo hold, carrying a mining plasma cutter. The tool was designed to cut through solid rock, and it hummed with dangerous energy. The Velkari soldiers found themselves separated and surrounded. This was not how their conquests usually went. Other species ran in terror when they boarded their ships. These humans were hunting them. General Thax watched through his soldiers' helmet cameras in growing horror. "This is impossible," he said. "They are miners, not warriors." Science Officer Vex was studying the readings from inside the human ship. "General, their fear levels are actually increasing, but instead of making them weaker, it's making them more focused, more dangerous." "How can fear make them more dangerous?" "Sir, I think I'm beginning to understand. Other species fear death, so they avoid fighting. But humans fear failure more than death. They fear letting down their friends more than dying themselves." On the ship, Jake faced the lead Velkari soldier in hand-to-hand combat. The alien was trained for war, but Jake was fighting for something more important than victory. He was fighting for his crew. The soldier swung his armored fist at Jake's head. Jake ducked and grabbed the alien's arm, using his own momentum to throw him against the wall. Years of hard work and zero gravity had made Jake stronger than he looked. "You cannot defeat us all," the soldier gasped. "Maybe not," Jake agreed. "But I don't have to defeat you all. I just have to make you understand that attacking humans is more trouble than it's worth." In the engine room, Tom was facing 3 Velkari soldiers. They had superior weapons and armor, but Tom knew every inch of his ship. He led them into a trap near the main power coupling, then triggered an electromagnetic pulse that disabled their weapons and made their armor too heavy to move quickly. "Sorry, boys," Tom said, hefting his wrench, "but nobody messes with my engines." Lisa was in the ship's upper levels, using the maintenance tunnels to move around the aliens like a ghost. Every time they thought they had her cornered, she would disappear through a hatch they didn't know existed. She had always been afraid of small spaces, so she had learned to master them. In the communication center, Ben was doing something the Velkari had never experienced. He was turning their own psychological warfare against them. Using their radio frequencies, he was broadcasting images and sounds from human history, battles where humans had fought against impossible odds and won. "See this?" Ben's voice came through their helmet speakers, showing them footage of humans fighting in space battles. These are what you're dealing with. We don't give up. We don't surrender. We get stronger when we're scared. The Velkari soldiers began to understand something terrible. They were not fighting a species that feared them. They were fighting a species that used fear as a weapon. Doc Allen had cornered 2 aliens in the medical bay. Instead of running from them, he was calmly explaining human biology while he treated a small cut on his hand. "You see," he said as the aliens pointed their weapons at him. "Humans have this thing called adrenaline. When we get scared, our bodies produce it. Makes us faster, stronger, more alert. Your fear gas just makes us produce more of it." He finished bandaging his hand and looked up at them. "So really, you've just made us all superhuman? Thanks for that." Mary was in the cargo hold protecting their 3 months of hard work. 5 Velkari soldiers had tried to secure the area, but Mary knew every container, every piece of equipment. She used the mining tools like a master craftsman, cutting through their weapons with precision strikes. "This cargo represents food for our families," she told them as she worked. "You want to take food from human children? Then you'd better be ready for a fight." Back in the main corridor, Jake was still facing the leader. The alien was skilled, but Jake was desperate, and desperate humans were the most dangerous humans of all. "Why do you not break?" the soldier demanded as they grappled. "The fear gas should destroy your mind." "Because," Jake said, throwing the alien against the wall again, "I'm not fighting you because I'm not afraid. I'm fighting you because I am afraid. I'm afraid of what happens to my crew if I lose." General Thax watched his trained soldiers being defeated by miners and engineers. On every screen he saw the same thing. Humans who were more dangerous because they were terrified, not less dangerous. "General," Science Officer Vex said quietly, "we should retreat." "Retreat? From a single mining ship?" "Sir, we've lost 12 soldiers to 6 humans. Our fear gas made them stronger instead of weaker. They're not fighting like any species we've ever encountered." On the human ship, Jake's voice came through the communication system, speaking directly to the Velkari fleet. "General Thax, your soldiers are brave, but they don't understand what they're fighting. They're not fighting humans who are fearless. They're fighting humans who are terrified and have decided to do something about it." Jake looked around at his crew. Tom was standing over 3 unconscious aliens, his wrench still in his hand. Lisa had captured 2 more using the ship's own systems against them. Mary had secured the cargo hold completely. Doc had somehow convinced his aliens to surrender by explaining how much damage human adrenaline could do. Ben had turned the rest into a confused, demoralized group who no longer believed in their own superiority. "You see, General," Jake continued, "your mistake was thinking that fear makes humans weak. But fear is what drove us out of caves and into space. Fear is what makes us build better ships, better weapons, better lives for our children." Jake walked to the bridge, stepping over defeated Velkari soldiers. "Fear is what makes us human. And humans, when they're afraid for something they love, are the most dangerous beings in the galaxy." He sat down in his captain's chair and looked at the screens showing the Velkari fleet. "Now, would you like to discuss letting us go home? Or would you like to send more of your soldiers over here to learn about human fear?" General Thax stared at his command screens in complete silence. Half of his boarding party was unconscious. The other half was trapped on the human ship, their weapons disabled, their confidence broken. In 50 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. "General," his communications officer said nervously, "the humans are requesting to speak with you." "Put them through," Thax said, his voice barely a whisper. Jake's calm face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Iron Will looked normal except for the purple gas still swirling in the air, and the unconscious Velkari soldiers on the floor. "General Thax," Jake said politely, "I believe you have something that belongs to us." "What?" "Time. You've wasted almost an hour of our journey home. My crew has families waiting for them." Thax felt something crack inside his mind. This human was treating the defeat of a Velkari boarding party like a minor inconvenience. You defeated my soldiers," Thax said. "We defended ourselves," Jake corrected. There's a difference. We're not conquerors, General. We're just people trying to get home. Science Officer Vex leaned close to his general. Sir, perhaps we should consider negotiation. These humans are clearly not like other species. Negotiation? Thax laughed bitterly. With miners? General, Jake said, overhearing the conversation. Let me save you some time. You're thinking about sending more soldiers. You're thinking about using bigger weapons. You're thinking that if you just apply enough force, we'll break like every other species you've conquered. Jake stood up from his captain's chair and walked closer to the screen. But here's what you don't understand about humans. The more you threaten us, the more dangerous we become. The more afraid you make us, the harder we fight. You can't break us with fear because fear is what makes us strong. On the Valkyrie flagship, the crew was listening to every word. For the first time in their military careers, they were hearing someone speak to their general as an equal. Impossible, Thax said. Fear is weakness. We have proven this across the galaxy. Have you? Jake asked. Or have you just been picking on species that were already weak? Tell me, General, when was the last time you fought someone who fought back? Thax thought about it. Every conquest had been the same. Deploy the fear gas, watch the enemy break, move in to claim victory. Simple, clean, efficient. That's what I thought, Jake continued. You've gotten used to easy victories, General, but humans don't do easy. Jake turned to his crew. Tom, how are our engines? Running better than ever, Captain, Tom replied loudly enough for the aliens to hear. The fear gas seems to have made everything work more efficiently. Lisa, navigation? Course plotted for Earth, Captain, ready to leave any time you give the word. Ben, communications? All frequencies clear, Captain, and I've been recording this entire conversation. The folks back home are going to be very interested in meeting the Valkyrie Dominion. General Thax felt something cold in his stomach. If word got back to human space that their fear gas didn't work on humans, that their soldiers could be defeated by miners. You cannot be allowed to leave, Thax said. General, Jake said sadly, you still don't get it. You can't stop us from leaving. You had your chance when you outnumbered us and had surprise on your side. Now we know what you can do, and you know what we can do. Jake gestured to the screens showing the Valkyrie soldiers scattered throughout his ship. Your best warriors, your most powerful weapon, your psychological warfare. None of it worked. What makes you think anything else will? We have superior numbers, Thax said desperately. Numbers don't matter if you can't use them effectively. You have 6 warships, but they're all designed around the idea that your enemies will be too afraid to fight back. What happens when your enemy gets stronger because they're afraid? Jake was right, and Thax knew it. Valkyrie military doctrine was based entirely on psychological dominance. Their ships were built to look terrifying. Their weapons were designed to cause fear. Their tactics relied on enemy surrender rather than actual combat. Doc, Jake called out, how are our guests doing? Doc Allen's voice came through the ship's speakers. The ones who are awake are asking about human anatomy, Captain. They want to know how we can function with so much adrenaline in our systems. Mary, cargo status? Secure and ready for transport, Captain. Not one piece of equipment was damaged during the boarding action. Jake turned back to General Thax. You see, General, we didn't just survive your attack, we didn't just defend ourselves. We did our jobs. While your soldiers were trying to conquer us, my crew was keeping our ship running, protecting our cargo, and getting ready to go home. That's impossible. You should have been paralyzed with fear. We were afraid, Jake agreed. I was terrified we might not make it home. Tom was afraid the engines might fail. Lisa was afraid she might crash the ship. Doc was afraid someone might get hurt. Mary was afraid we might lose our cargo. Jake smiled. So we all did our jobs better than we've ever done them before. On the Valkyrie flagship, Science Officer Vex was working frantically at his station. General, I'm reading massive power fluctuations from the human ship. Weapons? Thax asked. Hopefully. No, sir. They're engines. They're preparing to leave. General Thax realized he had a choice to make. He could order his ships to attack, to try to destroy the human vessel. But if he failed, and after what he had seen, failure seemed likely. Word would spread that the mighty Velkari Dominion had been defeated by a single human mining ship. Or he could let them go and hope that no one would believe their story. "General," Jake said, reading his thoughts, "you're wondering if you should let us leave or try to destroy us to keep your secret. How did you? Because I'm afraid you might make the wrong choice. So I'm thinking very clearly right now. Here's the thing, General. If you let us go, we'll tell people about today, but they might not believe us. One mining ship versus a whole fleet? Sounds crazy, right?" Jake leaned forward. "But if you attack us now and lose even one of your ships, everyone in the galaxy will know that humans can defeat the Velkari. Which choice sounds better to you?" General Thax looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him, waiting for orders. For the first time in his military career, he was unsure what to do. We will let you pass," he said finally. "Thank you, General," Jake said. "Oh, and one more thing. Your soldiers will be returned to you unharmed. We'll put them in escape pods at the edge of this system." "You are releasing them?" "We're not killers, General. We're just people who don't like being threatened." Jake turned to his crew. "All right, everyone, let's go home." The Iron Will turned away from the Velkari fleet and engaged her engines. The 6 warships hung in space watching as the small mining vessel disappeared into the darkness. 3 days later, General Thax sent a priority message to Velkari High Command. It was short and to the point. Request immediate revision of conquest. Protocols. Human species classification, dangerous when afraid. Recommend extreme caution in all future encounters. Fear gas ineffective. Standard boarding procedures ineffective. Suggest avoiding human space entirely. The message was filed in the military archives with a note. General Thax relieved of command pending psychological evaluation. But the word spread anyway. In cantinas and trading posts across the galaxy, the story was told and retold. The humans who had faced the Velkari fear gas and laughed. The miners who had defeated trained warriors. The species that got stronger when they were afraid. 6 months later, when the Iron Will docked at Earth Station Alpha, Jake and his crew were met by representatives from Human Colonial Command. "Captain Morrison," the Admiral said, "we need to talk. It seems your little encounter has made quite an impression on our alien neighbors." Jake smiled as he watched his crew reunite with their families. Tom hugged his wife and children. Lisa held her baby daughter. Doc was surrounded by his grandchildren. Mary was kissing her husband. Ben was already telling his story to anyone who would listen. "Admiral," Jake said, "I think you'll find that humans have always been impressive. We just needed the right motivation to show it. And so the galaxy learned that there were some species you did not threaten, some beings you did not try to frighten, and some ships you did not attack. Because humans, when they were afraid for something they loved, were the most dangerous force in the universe. The Iron Will was strong. Her crew was strong. And the word was spreading that humanity was strong, too."